Okay, here's the question we've been talking about during the commercial break, and you can tell the hint is the picture right behind me. Can your toothpaste actually give you diabetes? A new study by the University of Texas says, believe it or not, it is possible. Eyewitness News reporter Jeremy Baker talks to the experts to find out if we can keep the toothpaste we have or if we need to switch to something else.
It's called titanium dioxide, and it's found in most toothpaste to turn it white and also in some of the food that we eat. But could it really be damaging to your pancreas?
I have a feeling that this might be in that category of studies does not hold up to the test of time.
Dr. Ralph DeFranzo, a professor and chief of the Division of Diabetes at UT Health San Antonio, didn't really buy the results of the study. Researchers at the University of Texas in Austin used 11 people for the study. They took pancreas specimens from each and looked for evidence of titanium dioxide. 8 of the specimens were from people with type 2 diabetes, and 3 were from those without. Crystallized particles of titanium dioxide were found in all 8 of the diabetics, but nothing in the other 3.
There were only 11 patients in this study, so it's a very small study, and I think it's a little bit too premature to jump ahead.
Not just that, but
did the titanium precede the development of diabetes, or did the titanium deposition of the pancreas occur after the development of diabetes?
I'm not that concerned, because with toothpaste, we're brushing it on our teeth, we're rinsing afterwards, so we're not really ingesting this.
General and cosmetic dentist Oscar Trevino just didn't see a clear link between titanium dioxide and diabetes, but says diabetes and your teeth do have a connection.
So many patients that I see that have diabetes, unfortunately, have not seen the dentist on a regular basis.
Jeremy Baker, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.